Hey guys, in the next episode I'm going to be doing a video on either the water tower or fire tower. Let me know in the comments below and I'll choose which one to work on first. Thanks. Oh, hey guys, like the new look? I thought it would make these devlogs more interesting. Hopefully you guys like it. Setting this up is kind of hacky. Anyways, in this devlog I'm going to discuss the paths and map creation. This will be important since the paths will dictate not only the difficulty of the map, but also the aesthetic for the maps as well. So first, I want to talk about those paths. I mentioned in a previous devlog that the path is formed by a spline. Right now, there's only a single path for the enemies to travel across until they reach the end. However, I want there to be maps where there are multiple paths to go on. From this, I decided to make a path manager that would be in charge of taking care of any logic pertaining to paths. I decided that there would be 5 different kinds of paths that I want in my game. 1. Single paths. This is easy since they're already implemented in the game. 2. Multiple paths. With multiple paths, the enemies are split via a round-robin method, which means that each enemy is spread evenly on paths. So if we had, say, 10 enemies, each path would have 5 enemies on each path. Also, each enemy will notify itself when it reached the end of its starting path. Before, this was done by checking if it was at the end of the single path. But since we're using multiple paths now, we need to check for the current path that the enemy started on. So the next 2 paths will be similar, but have very apparent distinctions. 3. Convergent paths. Convergent paths are a path where multiple paths come together to a singular point and then lead to one path. To put it simply, many in, one out. Number 4. Divergent paths. A path where one path splits into multiple paths. One in, many out. It was pretty difficult to get these 2 path systems working. I needed to come up with a way to join multiple splines together and make it so that the enemies can know when a path turns into one another. It took some figuring out, as the enemies would just stop when it was at this joining point. Thankfully, the spline package I'm using has a junction node that allows for this sort of feature, making it rather easy to make some pretty complex paths if I wanted to. One thing I had to consider was how the enemies would decide what path to choose when on a divergent path. I could do it so it would randomly choose a path, but I feel like having to lose solely based on RNG was not something I wanted to do. So to make things more consistent, I made it similar to the way multiple paths are done and just did a round-robin distribution. 5. Rule-based paths. These are special case path systems where the spawning of paths or the way paths are set up in general would vary on whatever custom code I had in mind for the map. The best example I could come up with for this path system is the Binarious Prime map from BTD6. It is a multiple path map with 2 paths, and the way the path distribution works, whenever a round number is a prime number, like 13, all the enemies would go on to the second path, otherwise they go on the first path. This could lead to some interesting level design in the future, but for now I'm leaving this as something to work on in the future when the game is more well developed. Now that I have the 4 different path types working, I can start making levels. So to get some practice, I decided to take some inspiration and try to remake some maps from BTD6. Examples I'm going to be using are Monkey Meadows, In the Loop, Resort, Town Center, and Tree Stump. Now don't worry, these maps won't be in the actual game. These are mostly just for me to get experience in map creation. I'm using some assets I have lying around from other projects to make the environments. Some rocks, trees, some plants, water, some buildings. I think most of these maps came out pretty well. Most of them took a little less than an hour to remake. The trickiest part was getting the path to be aligned properly, but with more practice, I'll be able to wrangle those paths right where I want them to be. Oh wait, I just realized I forgot something. I wanted to make it so that the paths can be reversed as a special game mode. This was more of a headache to do than I expected, for one single reason. Can't do that with the spline packages I have. I mean, you can. You go to this spline computer that essentially tells the spline how to be a spline. It has this nice little button that says reverse. Pretty simple. and you can see it reverses the spline, but it doesn't alter the path mesh at all since the path is the same, it's just the direction is reversed. But Cardboard, if the reverse button exists, why did you say earlier that you can't do it? Well, first of all, thanks for listening, viewer. I really appreciate it. Not many people do. The reason I can't do it is because that reverse button doesn't work at runtime. It's meant to be an editor-only thing. But Cardboard, can't you just find the code for the reverse button and use that? Wow, listener, you're on fire today with questions. Trust me, I tried looking over all of the code in the spline package. There's no code specifically using keywords like reverse, backwards, or any other synonym for reversing. I tried looking into the documentation on the spline package's website, and the only thing I could find about reversing a spline was in reference to that button. I was exhausted, and I had to take a break from trying to get reverse mode from working. Finally, after a couple days, it came to me. What if to make the reverse version of a spline was just to take all the points of the existing spline and reverse it and reassign the points? It sounds super obvious saying it now, but before, I wasn't sure if it would work since I'm still a beginner when it comes to splines. So after creating a test function to reverse the splines, I got it to work. Now I just needed to make some adjustments to my path systems to work with the new reverse mode. Now, I finally have the ability to make maps for my game. After some time working on maps, I have 4 of them to show off. This first map you might be familiar with. This is Forest Fields. I use this map a lot for testing out ideas, towers, projectiles, upgrades, etc. It also was the very first map design I came up with a long time ago on my DSi. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I changed up some textures for the floor to make it look more grassy. I added more trees, rocks. Pretty simple, but that's what makes it nice to me. The next map is Finn's Reef. This takes place deep underwater, where the path the orbs travel is actually Finn the fish. This was a map design I had in the older version of the game as well. My favorite part about this map was making some of the ocean plants that I recreated from SpongeBob. I really like how they came out, and maybe one day, I might make a map that looks more like a Bikini Bottom environment. Loop Forest was the next map I came up with. With this one, I came up with the path design first, just 3 loops, and came up with the environment afterwards. Sometimes, I have an idea for an environment and make a path from there, and sometimes like this, with the inverse, it's a simple looking path, but it has some obstacles in the way so that players will need to deal with the tower's vision being blocked. The last map I worked on was a little more complex than I wanted it to be, but it came out much better than I could have even expected. This is Waterfall Way. I always wanted to make a waterfall. Forest Fields was actually supposed to have a waterfall, but I removed it in this version of the game. My favorite part about this map is the little split in the middle of the path, and just between you and me, it's actually just one path, but don't tell nobody. When orbs pass through, it looks like they're jumping. It makes me smile every time I see it, because it just looks so silly. Also, there's a bridge. You can place towers on it, but it isn't that useful since it's a line of sight blocker. One funny thing about this map is when reversing the path, since the visual is just 2 separate meshes using the same spline, when reversed, it messes up the gap in the river. So I had to code a quick fix, and it works just like before. Well, now that I got all the maps done, the only thing left is to test them out, but I need a way to select them. So in the older version of the game, this is what my level select looked like. Ew. It was pretty bare bones, and the UI is, well, UI isn't my forte, okay? I'm trying to get better. I retook some ideas that I had from older versions and incorporating new features. Now, you can scroll across the available levels. At the moment, there's only 4, and each map has some info. Its name, a screenshot of the map, and the achievement stickers for the various game modes. When you click on a map, it brings a mode select with various game modes, and when you're ready, press the go button and play the level. Now, the game modes for the most part aren't too difficult to implement. It is more so tedious than anything to do because one thing. Price multipliers. There's more to each game mode, like at what round means you beat the game, starting health, and reverse mode causing the paths to be reversed, but the price multipliers are the annoying thing. I have to go back through all of my code and make sure anytime the cost of a tower or upgrade is checked, price multiplier must be used. Other than that, that's it. Well, there is Harable mode, but that's a game mode for another video. Aw, will you look at the time? Seems the video's about to be over. Also, let me know what you think about this little robot fella in these devlog videos. I think it had some entertainment value. I just wish these were easier to record than the current setup I have. It doesn't help I have to worry about getting killed by monsters when I record this. Also, don't forget to vote either Water Bunny or Fire Bunny for the next video. Bye!